I don't pretend to know everything about cinema or the history of comic books. I am a geek and a songwriter with a passion for characters and stories. Recently, I went to see Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice in theaters, and left feeling underwhelmed. I found myself fixated on trying to figure out where this movie went wrong. This is because, for all intensive purposes, it shouldn't have. You have the most popular titans of the DC comic universe, battling out with the best access to special effects in history behind them. The cinematography was stunning. The action sequences were great, and the choice of actors and their portrayal of the characters was solid. Yes, even Batfleck was good. It's really easy, and quite frankly lazy, to blame an actor for the poor quality of a film. This isn't a grade school drama class production. These are professionals who have little to no control over how the final product is cut for the screen. And in my opinion, this is where the film falls short. Batman v Superman felt like a long series of 30-second trailers leading up to a fight sequence, rather than a proper 3-act drama. A good story involves the evolution of its characters. This is why we love movies like The Godfather, Fight Club, Casablanca, and Schindler's List, just to name a few. These are tales of struggle and development, forever changing people. If a filmmaker doesn't allow for characters to grow, be it in the script or the editing room, then not even casting the best actors in history will save the story.
Here's where you might want to stop listening if you want to avoid spoilers.
Quite simply, there was no character growth amongst the protagonists in Batman vs. Superman. With the exception of Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, who really stole the show in a lot of ways, changing from genius playboy to paranoid and obsessive scientist to finally vengeful nemesis, none of the characters with major screen time showed any authentic personal development by the end of the film. I found myself more interested in the story of the amputee, changing from a Wayne Tech employee to a struggling victim of disaster to a martyr against metahumans, than I did, for instance, Wonder Woman or Superman. And the sad thing is that these superheroes have been so fleshed out in the comics and cartoons over the years that portraying character development in the story was definitely possible, but it didn't happen. At one point during the movie, my girlfriend actually turned to me to ask,
So why are they fighting again?
And that question is the whole point of the film, but it is very easy to criticize and much harder to create. As such, I've decided to put my own thoughts up for review. In other words, here's how I would have told the story of Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. Bruce Wayne, or Batman, is visiting Metropolis on business with his new wife, Selina Kyle, or Catwoman. It has been 5 years since he last donned the cowl and fought crime.
Bored with the corporate environment and unproductive merger negotiations between Wayne Tech and LexCorp, Selina announces to Bruce she's going to return to their hotel to unwind. He chooses to stick it out through his remaining meetings, promising to meet up with her later.
Lex Luthor wants unfettered access to Wayne Tech's R&D department. Bruce Wayne ultimately finds LexCorp's proposals unsatisfying and refuses the merger. Lex Luthor declares his outrage, promising to ruin Wayne Tech at any cost. Just as the argument becomes heated, the final events of Man of Steel unfold. The fight between General Zod and Superman tears apart Metropolis. Thousands of people die in the disaster, including Selina Kyle.
LexCorp headquarters is also in ruins. Lex Luthor is knocked unconscious, and Bruce Wayne carries him from the rubble to safety. Bruce leaves Lex to vainly find Selina, working himself up into a panic. He recalls a moment of happier times where Selina teases Bruce by saying, "You're supposed to be the world's greatest detective. Come find me." Bruce is unable to find her and passes out from exhaustion.
Bruce Wayne wakes up in a hospital room in Gotham City to find his loyal butler, Alfred, at his side. Alfred informs Bruce that Selina's dead body was found in the destruction in Metropolis. Bruce is inconsolable, swearing vengeance against Superman. Alfred reminds him that Batman stood for justice, not vengeance. Bruce argues that his entire career as Batman was meaningless in the face of an evil alien with the powers of God.
Moving forward in time, 18 months or so, Clark Kent, or Superman, is struggling to juggle his identities as a hero, a reporter, and a partner to Lois Lane. Superman knows he did right in Metropolis and has been continuing to do good around the globe, but feels guilty for the collateral damage from his battle with Zod. In turn, he's also uncomfortable with the cult-like hero worshipping he receives from some of his supporters.
As Clark Kent, his editor and boss at the Daily Planet is threatening to fire him because he's always running off to save people as Superman without providing any notice or reason. He feels alienated from the rest of the world, except for Lois Lane, who knows his true identity as Superman, and states that he couldn't handle losing her. Lois Lane, however, is struggling to handle the burden of Superman's insecurities and wants to get back into the field as an international news reporter. She is torn between her love for Superman and her lifelong passion for investigative journalism.
Meanwhile, Lex Luthor has been rebuilding his company and plotting to destroy Superman. Lex expresses to U.S. government officials that Superman is a threat to not only national but global security, being able to do whatever he wants with no repercussions. The U.S. government is initially resistant to give in to his demands for a deterrent. Lex Luthor assures said officials that they'll change their minds soon enough.
Lex Luthor dreams that night about his father, recalling memories of being hit as a child and eventually growing up and fighting back, with distorted imagery of defeating Superman being mixed in. He wakes up and decides that finding a way to stop Superman is too important a task to ignore, that he must force others into action. Lex analyzes the rise of Superman in the media and in hacked government documents, and determines that Superman has an emotional weakness for Lois Lane. He fabricates a rumor in the media about a military conflict in the little-known region of Themyscira in the Mediterranean, and financially encourages the editor of the Daily Planet to send Lois Lane to investigate. Secretly, Lex Luthor hopes to obtain resource reserves in the area by destabilizing the region.
Lois jumps at the chance for the news assignment, but Clark Kent is worried about her safety and doesn't want her to go. She says she loves him, but asserts her independence, saying that Superman has to protect the world, not just Lois Lane. Lois sneaks onto the island of Themyscira, but quickly realizes that the rumors were false when she's briefly captured and questioned by Wonder Woman, or Diana Prince, and her Amazonian guard. Wonder Woman releases Lois and reveals that Themyscira is an ancient society of only women.
Superman struggles to give Lois Lane her space, and rushes in to save her when he thinks that she's been imprisoned by Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman takes Superman's presence as an act of war, and conflict ensues. Superman doesn't want to hurt anyone, but his conflict with the Amazonian guard leaves a wake of destruction. He flies away with Lois Lane. Wonder Woman vows revenge on the world of man after Superman's blunder, going public to the media of the world about the incident.
The United Nations and the U.S. government find themselves concerned with Superman's disregard for national boundaries and public safety. The CIA approached Lex Luthor to commission a deterrent, giving him access to the body and ship of the deceased General Zod. In searching the spacecraft, Lex Luthor finds a small sample of kryptonite, a mineral Superman's Kryptonian physiology is weakened by, and then scours the globe for greater samples.
Meanwhile, Batman has returned full force to Gotham City. Acting in anger, he's harder on criminals than he's ever been before, and there is growing concern in the media that he's going too far, and that maybe Superman should step in. Batman follows every lead he can to find out dirt on Superman, scouring the underworld for his secrets and weaknesses. Reports of events in Themyscira just solidify in his mind that Superman needs to be kept in check.
After hacking government records, Batman goes to Metropolis in an attempt to steal some kryptonite from LexCorp. More emotional than ever and having no knowledge of Lex Luthor's agenda, Superman sees the Batmobile in a car chase on the news. He takes it as an affront that Batman is expanding his violent and criminal vigilante operation beyond Gotham to Metropolis and feels compelled to stop him.
Superman destroys the Batmobile in the subsequent battle and is about to take him into the police when Wonder Woman blindsides him. As Wonder Woman and Superman fight furiously, Batman escapes into the night. After losing his original target, Superman leaves the battle with Wonder Woman out of concerns for collateral damage and innocent bystanders.
Lex Luthor hears all about the battle on the news and finds out from his staff that Batman was trying to steal his kryptonite. He ushers out his associates from his office so he can scheme. Batman suddenly appears from the shadows and startles Lex Luthor. Batman, desperate for a way to defeat Superman, demands the kryptonite from LexCorp. Lex Luthor regains his confidence and smiles, offering to not only give him the kryptonite, but also to weaponize it.
Still shaken from his previous encounter with Superman, Batman carelessly asks, "What's your game, Luthor?" A line Bruce Wayne had said to Lex Luthor during merger discussions. And Luthor finds the parody curious. He then notices a bunch of Wayne Tech R&D devices on Batman's utility belt, as he had seen previously in stolen corporate Wayne Tech R&D reports. Lex Luthor appeals to Batman's desperation and simply suggests that no man should play God and Superman must be kept in check. Lex Luthor provides Batman with the coordinates of the weaponized kryptonite, and Batman leaves with a gruff.
Lex smiles to himself, running to his computer to do a side-by-side comparison between photos of Bruce Wayne and security footage of Batman, realizing they are one and the same. He says to himself, "Now I can kill two birds with one stone."
Lois Lane investigates further into the background of Wonder Woman, feeling that there was something suspicious about the first information she received on Themyscira. She discovers Lex Luthor paid off her editor and boss at the Daily Planet. She also finds historical documents revealing hints about Wonder Woman's strengths, weapons, and alternate identity as Diana Prince. Lois Lane decides to approach Wonder Woman to convince her of Superman's true good nature. After heated debate, Wonder Woman says she needs some time to think about it, that she has little faith in the good of those under patriarchy.
Lex Luthor uses his access to General Zod's body and technology to create the Doomsday Monster. He aspires to release it to kill both Superman and Batman at the same time. Lois Lane reveals to Superman that Lex Luthor set up the Themyscira incident and has bigger plans. Superman goes to confront Lex Luthor, but is confronted with the Doomsday Monster. Superman nearly defeats Doomsday, but the creature evolves beyond his abilities.
Superman realizes he cannot defeat Doomsday on his own and decides to petition Batman for help. Batman, however, has been waiting to take Superman down. Using his intellect and kryptonite-based weapons, he outmatches Superman before Superman can properly convince him of the danger.
As Batman is about to lay a killing blow to an unconscious Superman, Lois Lane rushes in between them. She reveals that she figured out the secret identity of Bruce Wayne years ago and argues that Batman stood for justice and not vengeance, that the real Batman would never kill anyone and would never compromise his morals. She asks him what Bruce Wayne's parents would think. Batman is shaken and decides not to kill Superman.
Unexpectedly, Batman is struck by Doomsday, who crashes through a wall. Batman does his best to battle Doomsday, but is taken off guard and is outmatched. Thankfully, Superman rouses, wakes up, and tackles Doomsday.
Both Superman and Batman wage war against Doomsday, and the fight spills out into downtown Metropolis. Just as they start to gain ground with the monster, Lex Luthor appears in a high-tech military exoskeleton and tips the scales, allying himself with Doomsday.
Wonder Woman, having seen the battle erupt on the news, decides to help Superman and confront Luthor. Upon her arrival, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman defeat Lex Luthor and Doomsday.
The three superheroes reflect on their misconceptions of one another and apologize. They notice how good they work together as a team. They agree to imprison Doomsday in Superman's Fortress of Solitude and bring Lex Luthor to the authorities. But during their discussions, a distracted Superman is stabbed through the chest with kryptonite in a last-ditch effort by Lex Luthor. Superman dies, and Lois is devastated. Lex Luthor maniacally laughs as the authorities take him away.
2 separate burials are held. The first, a public memorial to Superman for saving Metropolis. The second is a private funeral for Clark Kent held by his loved ones. However, Superman's body is at neither service. Devising that Superman gets his power from sunlight, Batman decides the best thing to do is hurl Superman's body into the sun. That there is a chance for regeneration. Lois Lane, Alfred, and Wonder Woman agree to the plan and help Batman to develop his projectile contraption.
There is a moment of anxiety and anticipation as Superman's body goes beyond the range of Batman's sensor readings. Lois Lane expresses regret that she never really got to tell Superman just how much she loved him. A wave of sorrow and defeat rushes over everyone except Batman, who remains resolved. Finally, Superman blasts out from the sun and arrives on Earth stronger than ever. The whole group erupts into joyous celebration, and even Batman cracks a slight smirk.
Flash forward to 6 months later, we see the Hall of Justice standing at ground zero of the battle with Doomsday. The 3 superheroes stand tall and assess new global threats emerging in Central City, Star City, and deep in the Pacific Ocean. Credits roll as they montage into action.
Finn.
I wrote this story in draft as I drove home from the theater, basically in a 25-minute conversation with my girlfriend. But I personally love this version because the characters are dynamic and feel more complete by the end.
Batman returns to a path for justice after seeking revenge. Superman goes from feeling entirely alienated to being loved and part of a new team. Wonder Woman casts off her prejudice against all men and fights for the good of all people. Lex Luthor changes the least, probably, but he cements his role as a villain, whereas in the beginning he acted under the guise of global safety. And lastly, Lois Lane is actually a journalist, strong and independent, and yet comes to realize how much she needs Superman, not as a hero, but as the love of her life.
I think that strong female characters are important in a film. First, they're more realistic to life. And second, they inspire or at least reinforce the idea in society that women ought to be considered equally to men. I could have spent my time talking about more relevant or significant things. The Ghomeshi trial, the US election race, the recent terrorist developments around the globe. but I chose to consider Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Perhaps I needed just a bit of time to unplug, if you will, and there's nothing wrong with a bit of escapism now and then. But if there's one thing I would say you should take away from all of this, it would be that stories matter in film, and they are built on dynamic characters. This is not something to overlook. Thank you for watching our rewrite of Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Destroys the Batmobile.
Ba-da-da-da-da-da.
Bop.